All right, there you go.
Okay, we good? Here, I'll just put it on this board.
It's recording now.
Great.
Okay, we should be live. Yep, we're live now.
All right. Good evening, all. Thank you for joining us here. And if you're joining at home or watching the recording, I'd like to start tonight's meeting with a quick prayer, if we could. Heavenly Father, we thank you for all we have and all you are. Thank you for the opportunity to gather and talk through the future of this town together. We are a unit of people, a community of people. We ask that we are able to see and hear your direction as we talk through things that are going on now and things that are going to happen in the future. You are in control and sovereign, Lord, but we welcome your guidance. Thy will be done here and always. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen. Off the top, our family motto, of course, don't believe anything you hear and only half of what you see. It's a little tongue-in-cheek, but it's true, right? The reason we have these town halls is to come and talk. And I'm willing to stand here in front and give answers where questions come, and that's what we're here for as a community. So we joke a little bit, but the truth is, hey, the whole spirit of these meetings is to find out what's going on, get some facts straight from the source, not from Facebook, and move forward together. Quick road update. About 85% of the roads in this town have been resurfaced. Fully understand it's not perfect. From the beginning, from our very first town hall meeting in June of this year, we've never said, hey, we're fixing the roads. Yes, that is the goal. Our long-term goal is we're fixing the roads. But to start that process, we have started to resurface the roads. And about 85% of the roads in the town have been resurfaced. And it's good, but standing water is our enemy on these road surfaces. It always has been. Like this is not a new problem, but the more we work on the roads and mound up the roads and get that crown, the less of a factor it is. I'm impressed with how almost all the roads have held up, the ones that we have resurfaced. There are some blemishes and imperfections that we're going to stay on top of. We'll keep on it. Next targets for roads include Mill Street, Oak Street, and spot fixes on the roads that we've resurfaced to this point. We've partnered very well with the county. Wallace Street and Olive Street are prime examples of that. We've done good work with the county, and they've worked with us extremely well. Can't be thankful enough for the time and effort and the material. We got the materials, but they had the machinery that was used to help us get those road surfaces done. So an ongoing project, and I mentioned that standing water is our enemy. There is a drainage plan. Let's see, that's probably this next one here. This drainage plan has been in place since June, right? I've built this slide for everybody in June of this year. Public Works Director Corey Miller and I are working on this, and there's a what it looks like now and where the water goes, and what we'd like for it to do, and what the plan is going forward. So if you'd like to walk up at the end and take pictures or ask questions, there is a plan that we're following. It's just a matter of getting those ditches dug and getting that water directed more toward the creek instead of across our road. So that plan is ongoing, and you'll see a lot more of that as we come through into the early part of 2025. DOT curbs, I've mentioned a couple of times. This is a go. DOT is on board with this particular vision for the curbs and the esplanades out on 69. It just takes a little bit to work with DOT. DOT needs decisions from Austin, and there's a communication, there's a chain of command. So they're on board, and they think it's a great idea. They just have to get all the approvals, the paperwork, the agreements in process. And those are in process. It just takes a while. If I had to put a timeline on that right now, it would be late 25. And I'll keep everybody updated as we go through, town hall meetings, or if I see it on the street. But this curb structure is definitely something that they're interested in. Just as a side note, we're also extending the speed limit signs south on 69. This was petitioned to the DOT. It was approved. It's just a matter of time before the signs actually move further southbound. As you come into town from the south, you'll see the speed limit signs early, right at the city limit sign, which means the school zone sign also moves further south, which gets people slowed down faster. It's a dangerous situation out there in front of the school, and especially in the evenings at night when there's no light. And so we're trying to help keep it as safe as we can. DOT's on board. Those signs will be moving probably February or March. So we'll see that during the next term for school, and that's a good thing.
Katy Street.
What's that?
Katy Street, Church Street.
Yeah, that's next. That's okay. So curbs, and then Katy Street and Church Street. If you didn't know this already from the last town hall meeting, the DOT actually owns Katy Street and Church Street across 69. So if they own it, then they're in charge of improving it. So there is a plan in place that in spring, or late spring, early summer of 25, they're going to come and resurface Katy Street and Church Street. So those will get touched and reworked to a higher standard here in the next 6 months. So thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
They do the approaches for the roads leading up on them.
Yes, they do the the approaches that come in off 69 there.
What about off of Katy Church?
To an extent, but I don't think it goes very far. But yes, that's my understanding. So if that changes, they haven't said that to me yet. So I've been going on the understanding. Exactly. Any approach we can do, especially from a changing road surface, makes sense. So, so any questions about any of that I can answer to this point?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you mean by the DOT owns Katy and Church Street? What does that mean?
Okay, so the history of this town is that 69 used to be the railroad, and Katy Street and Church Street used to be the highway. They were never handed over to our city. So the ownership of those streets belongs to DOT. By virtue of that, the city is handcuffed. Anymore, like it's very similar to you and your neighbor, right? You can't go paint your neighbor's house, right? Your neighbor owns that house. We can't do a whole lot on the street that we don't own, right? So in the future, that probably will be handed over. There will be some type of paperwork, vote, ceremony, whatever, where that does change hands. But up to this point, when they ripped the railroad tracks up and made 69, those two roads never officially changed hands. So in order for that to be improved or resurfaced, it's a DOT project. So, interesting bit of history that I wasn't even aware of. So, if there's no questions on that, I'll move forward to code enforcement. Now, I've been mayor for about 7 months, and it's a small town. I hear all of the stuff, good, bad, and ugly, and different. I get it, right? And it's part of where we live, and I respect everybody's opinion. But I've heard and seen the comments that this city is trying to make us Hollywood, or we're not Caddo or Plano or Highland Park, and so I get that. If that is something that you have said, it's not correct. If it's something that you hear somebody say, let them know it's not correct. And I'm going to walk through exactly why we're doing what we're doing, and why, even if somebody wanted us to be Highland Park, Plano, Hollywood, or Better Homes and Gardens, it's not possible. Okay? Personally, I don't want that. I like our small town charm. I want to hang on to it as long as we can. But the best way I can describe this is, if you were to drive through our town, the next time you drive through our town, I urge you to look and make note of how many buildings there are, and how many how many empty lots that are already cleared. How many cleared lots and buildings there are in this town where businesses could be placed. And I think you're going to come up with 6 or 8. 10 if you're stretching. We only have a certain amount of slots where businesses can go in this town. So there's no way, even if all of us collectively in this room wanted to be Better Homes and Gardens, if we wanted to be Picture Perfect Plano or whatever, we can't. We only have 6 to 10 slots where businesses can go. Well, okay, Steve, why are businesses so important? Property taxes that we pay is a big check. But we pay those taxes to Hunt County, and only a small sliver of that money comes back to the city, much smaller than most people realize. So property taxes alone are not a way for the city to generate the type of revenue that our citizens expect. And it is sales tax that does that. So that is why the onus is on the business lots. We're trying to entice business, entrepreneurs and investors to come into our town and say, I want to be in Lono. Because we have these slots, and that's where the city's revenue really stems from. And in order to have an investor come through our town and say, yes, I want to choose Lono, Lono needs to present itself in a certain way where the investor would want to do that. So I want to stress up front, we're not trying to be perfect. We're not trying to be Better Homes and Gardens. We're not picking on anybody. Because in my opinion, and the opinion of a lot of folks, this is not a surprise. Folks, you don't need people to tell you that your grass is 12 inches high. None of us need to be told that we mow our grass, but if we leave 3 and 4 foot weeds at our house fence, around our yard art or our trees, that's not yard maintenance. No one has to be told that, the rusting car in your yard is not right. And appliances don't belong in the yard. These are not things that are a surprise. And I don't want to come across as rough, but as I mentioned, I've been mayor about 7 months now, and my approach to this point has been very easy. Let's have a conversation. What can we do about this? Can I help? Can I organize help? Can we do this together? Right? It's not a hammer and a sickle. It's not a fire and brimstone speech. Collectively as a community, we need to recognize the areas in our town that need improvement, and we need to improve them because we are losing entrepreneurs and investors to Point, to Emory, and to Green. And Lono absolutely deserves these businesses, and we're going to need to tidy up a little bit to entice the type of investor that's going to need to come into town and revitalize these 8 to 10 spots. Now, beyond those 8 to 10 spots, there are several lots that are also, capable of housing a business, but they're not clear, right? That's, in my opinion, that's an 8 to 10 or maybe a year-long down the road project. Okay, and those are still there too. But the sooner we get a business in, the sooner Lone Oak as a community benefits. And by no means are we trying to be a big city. So that brings me to the next point, which is what I call the hierarchy of health. Not everybody is young and spry. Not everybody has a bunch of money. I get it, right? Cleaning up a property or doing something different with a property can be hard, which is why the approach that we've taken to this point is, hey, how can we have a conversation? How can I help, right? Is there something I can do? But let's be real. And on top of the fact that this is not a surprise, right? We also need to recognize that it's not something that a magic wand gets waved and everything disappears. So before I get into the hierarchy of health, I touched on yards and appliances and cars, couches, boats, branch piles, large debris piles. I mean, these are things that we can walk out of our homes and recognize, okay, that's not necessarily the perception we'd like Lone Oak to have should an investor drive through our streets. We're doing our part as a city to help the roads, right? Because that has been a problem to this point. And again, they're not perfect, I know. And just like the roads are not expected to be perfect, we're not expecting perfection on code enforcement right out of the gate. We've been working on this process for 7 months. We're going to continue to do it through 2025. If you run a business at your home, totally get it. Business materials, though, should not be visible. And business vehicles should not be parked in a way on road surfaces where they impede traffic for emergency vehicles or school buses. It's minor things, tiny things, but let's work together to recognize where things need to get done and get them done. Now, the hierarchy of health is where we start. The very first place anybody should start or could start is with their family. You may not have a family that lives with you. Maybe they could come in from out of town on holidays, or maybe you could schedule some time with family. I fully understand. Some of us don't have family. Some of our family is maybe has an illness or is elderly or too far away. Totally get it. Sometimes we're just estranged from our family, and there's no problem with that, right? I certainly recognize that. But if you have capable family nearby that can help, that's where we should start. We should all start with our family members. Beyond that, our church family. We can reach out to our church leaders and say, I've got some things that I could use some help with. And that's what a church family is there for, in the absence of direct family. Thirdly, friends, the generosity of strangers, etc., neighbors, right? I've organized a few things with some Angels of Lone Oak in town where we've been able to clear some things and help people with things, and we'll continue to do that. That is a program that's going to keep going. Right? We've got some really good-hearted folks in this community that are willing to help. Most of the time when we set it up, it's less than 2 hours of a commitment on a Saturday morning, right? And you're already, back at your house doing your own stuff by 10 a.m. or 10:30, right? There is help available. Definitely willing to set that up and be a part of it because that's what community is. So that's the third piece is, once you get past the family or the church family, if there's some community members that can step in. And lastly, if there's some kind of governmental help, in this particular instance, the city, of course, we'll do everything we can. But we don't have a lot of resources either. That's why we're trying to attract the businesses and do all the things that we're doing. So the standards also, I want to make sure, so first and foremost, we're not trying to be perfect. We're not picking on anybody. But secondly, you have to also understand the standards that we're talking about for code enforcement are not new. They're not, this isn't something that's been brought in the last 6 or 7 months. These standards have been on the books through our city council in many cases for years. So, it's not something that's been brought in or is something new based on new faces on the city council or in the mayor's chair. These are just standards that the city has set for a long time that we want to try to embrace, again, to help bring businesses to our city. At that point, I'd like to pause and just see, Gordon, are there any questions that have come in online?
I'm just now picking up to do this.
Okay, so Gordon, on the online streaming, we're opening it up for questions, and I want to embrace, whoever's got a question and try to answer it as best I can. So, any questions in here around, code enforcement or anything that's been mentioned here?
So I have another question.
Yes, ma'am.
When you talk about businesses, what type of businesses are you guys looking to bring in, and where are these lots and the size of the lots?
So there are several lots in town that are vacant, and then there are also vacant buildings. Now these vacant buildings could be in different stages of readiness. I myself, was part of a renovation that was pretty extensive on a building, and it worked out great. Right? And, we're currently looking for the next, just on a personal level. There's a couple of buildings that could turn around into some type of business tomorrow. There are others that would require some renovation. And then there are just blank lots. They're not full of trees or brush. They're low-level grass that would be considered commercial lots that somebody could come in and then, put a foundation on, work through the planning and zoning, committee and the city council to bring some type of business. We have an economic development corporation in town that is actively seeking, and you can run the gamut of the types of businesses they're trying to bring in. Bank, right? I personally would love to see an urgent care here in Lone Oak. I think it would be very good. In conjunction with that, if we have an urgent care, we kind of need a pharmacy, right? So, I'm with you, right? And so, barring winning the lottery, right? This is a process that we're trying to bring up because all these types of businesses have either been here or they've passed through here looking and they've kept going. So a rising tide lifts all boats. And what we're trying to do is rise the tide in our bay so that some of these investors will stay and some of this money doesn't keep going to south or north along 69 and skipping our town.
These businesses, though, aren't they looking at the demographics or the census?
Yes.
Right now it says 598.
That's a great point. The sign says 598. We are probably 725 to 750, probably pushing 800 now.
So I have more babies.
Well, agreed. So, also, to your point, yes, the normal progression of a business, I can tell you from experience, is numbers. Numbers first. Historically, we're talking decades in the past, we haven't been a large enough city for those numbers to work, right? Why is there not a McDonald's here or a Chick-fil-A? The numbers don't work. However, if you look up and down 69 and you drive through the streets of our town and see the houses that are going in, and you hear about the developments here and there, it's coming. The town, and I've said this in a previous town hall meeting, our city is going to meet those number equation numbers very quickly. Like, as soon as these houses start to go up, and some of them already have, and they start to get populated, that equation starts to work. So that's part one. Okay, the numbers have to work. Well, as soon as that equation turns green, then they come driving through and see, okay, what kind of town are we talking about? We're not even on their radar unless they're looking specifically until that equation turns green. But I can tell you from experience, as soon as that equation turns green, it's almost like we appear on the radar. And it happens so fast that here they come. And so if they come, we want to put our best foot forward as a city, which is what I was talking about before. Now, in terms of the types of businesses, we only have a handful right now. Like I've heard so many. I'm in a discussion like this probably 3 times a week. Hardware store, auto parts store on a small scale, urgent care and pharmacy, right? Everything from coffee shops to, you name it, right? Everybody has got some ideas, and they're all good ideas. Anything that we can bring to Lone Oak that, it enhances the town, provides more choices for this town so that those choices don't go elsewhere is what we're looking for.
Since the taxes go to Hunt County, do they or have they studied the cars per day?
Yes, we've done traffic measurement. We were just talking about this on Tuesday, last week. The last traffic number that we saw was somewhere between 10,000 and 12,000 cars per day along 69. The main highway out here is 69. So if you aggregate both directions, dawn to dusk, or 24-hour period, or whatever you want to call it, it fell between 10 and 12,000 cars per day. So we've done that, right? A large chunk of all of Hunt County property taxes goes to Hunt County, and then there's a sliver that actually peels off. This number just changed, which is why this is X'd out. It actually went down, right? So, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but for every $10,000 of appraised value that goes in, a check that goes to Hunt County, Lone Oak in turn receives $290 for the year. Right. So you pay property tax. I'm assuming 10,000 is probably higher than what you're paying, but let's assume that we're all in here. 10,000, 10,000, 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. For every 10,000, the city of Lone Oak gets $290. And so while it feels painful and it feels almost criminal that you write this huge check and you don't see it here in Lone Oak, that's the reason. Because
our property taxes on a half an acre is $2,500, roughly.
Okay.
So
a quarter of the 290. Let's just, for round numbers, it's $300 for every 10,000. If you divide that into quarters,
well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. A lot of towns here, a lot of houses here in town are on half acre, quarter acre lots.
The house we live in does not require 10,000. I'm just rounding up for easy math. So we're talking about a couple $100 per home per year. And and this is not something that's new, right? I mean, the understanding of it might be new because we all pay these big checks and we're thinking, well, gosh, why are these roads this way, or why doesn't this happen, or why don't I see more of this and that? It's because it's Hunt County, and then it's the Lone Oak City part of that comes back afterwards. And don't get me wrong, I'm not spitting at the amount of money that the city gets. That's how the city runs, right? We have employees, we have services. We've got to provide these, right, for the constituents of this town. It's just not a lot. So if we want to do more, if we want to hear the cries of the community of why can't the city do this? Why can't the city do that? I'm here to show you, right? It's that those numbers are not as big as you think they are, because you see that big check going out, but you don't necessarily see what comes back. And that's what I've been trying to illustrate in these town halls, is that, okay, we get some, and that's great. In order to step forward, thrive, or do more, we really need those businesses, because that sales tax revenue is what drives city involvement, growth, and provision. But a really good question. You got anything? Okay. Anything online, sir? Nope. Not yet. Okay. We can always come back to that if something pops up. So I'll step forward with a bit of a communication note. If you take the school kind of handles its own stuff. It handles its own yard, right? It kind of, it's a part of the city, and we embrace that, right? But for this illustration, or just to paint a picture for everybody here, if you take the school and you just kind of put it on its own island, this town is about 1.25 miles long and about a 1/2 mile wide. Come see me. I have a phone on my desk. I've got a voicemail, and I'm in the office. I'm not in the office every day. Again, let me take a step back and remind everybody watching, the mayor's position of this town is not paid. The city council members in this town are not paid. So I'm in the office, but I'm not in the office all day. I'm usually in the office every morning. Call me. Don't put stuff on the bulletin board. If you're asking for questions on the bulletin board, I've told you before, I will not answer Facebook. I won't. It's a trap. The devil. Facebook is for the devil. That's a movie line. But anyway, call me, right? City Hall is less than a 1/2 mile from anyone's driveway. Anyone's. Let's talk. Right? I am willing to talk, and I am eager to meet people who are civically minded and want to know what's going on. That's what this town needs. The whole Angels of Lone Oak, campaign and thought process, the vision around, rising the water level in this town to raise all boats. I mean, it's real, right? And we have seen vast improvement and community involvement. I love it, right? The more we can do, the better. But just call, right? If there's questions, right? I had somebody call me the other day. I just recently put the new fire burning ordinance on Facebook for everybody to hear, for everybody to read. Interestingly enough, the city didn't have an ordinance on burning. We relied on the county. Well, the rules changed at the county level. So we needed to do that, right? And we've been operating on a certain set of standards for a long time, and we've been operating on a lot of assumptions for a long time. But what we found out here in the last 2 weeks was, we need an official ordinance. We need some guidelines within our city limits so that people know these are the standards, these are the rules, right? And somebody had called, and we had a great conversation, right? So the communication line is open. So I'm willing to talk, willing to meet, willing to call you back. So, having said that, let's open the floor to general questions. Anything that I haven't covered this evening that's been on anybody's mind here? Anything? 2025 is just a few weeks away. We're looking forward to a lot.
Stoplight at the school.
What's that?
Stoplight at the school.
Stoplight at the school or stoplight at Kim's?
Yes.
Okay. School, the stoplight at the Kim's is something that has been refreshed in the last 4 to 6 weeks directly with DOT. I sat down with DOT. A certain type of measurement is needed that they are putting out. And I was unaware that there are 2 types of traffic measurement. There is normal flow, and then there's also traffic flow for stoplights, which is somehow different. But That's okay, right? I don't work for DOT, so it's not for me to understand. Once I understood that, the city of Lone Oak formally petitioned DOT to conduct a study for a light outside Kim's. Because again, this is not a new issue. It's a very important issue, and someone's going to get hurt. So we're trying to avoid that. Now, there are several factors that have to be considered. I'm not sure if anyone knows this besides a handful that I've told. I looked at the aerial view and counted the rights-of-way at that intersection, and there are 13. There are 13 rights-of-way at the intersection in front of Kim's. There are 2 lanes going north on 69 and 2 lanes going south. That's 4. There is 1 lane coming out of Kim's, 1 lane going in. That is 6. There is 1 lane coming off 513 and 1 going in. That is 8. There are 2 directions of Katy Street. That is 10. There are 2 directions of Church Street. That is 12. And there is a right-hand turn lane from 513 headed south on 69. 13 rights of way. Something is going to have to be traffic controlled or blocked. I had this conversation with DOT personally. We're all on the same page, so understand that the light at Kim's is a hot topic and a high priority. Thank you. Now, as far as a light in front of the school, I haven't had that conversation yet.
Well, that'll come later.
It's going to come, probably. Just,
If the DOT says it's a blinking light, do they still let us change it to a stoplight for some amount of money?
I don't know, because at this point, I'm trying to get a light.
Yeah.
And, even if we get a blinking light, I would rather have a red, green, and yellow stoplight. In order to accomplish that, it's going to take a specific light traffic measurement from DOT, which I fully believe is going to show them exactly what they need. I looked at there's 6 or 7 criteria for a DOT to consider putting a light at an intersection, and you only have to meet 1. And we meet 3. So as soon as this measurement goes in, whatever red tape and process is inside DOT, I feel confident that this is going to move forward. However, to get a red light at that intersection, it's going to take some traffic control, because I'll go ahead and paint the picture. You are dropping your kid off at school. You are coming southbound on 69, okay? But you catch the light. You're the first person at the light, okay? So you're looking at the intersection. And the intersection's clear, but then now these folks have green light. So the people coming out of Kim's and Church Street, and the people coming out of 513 and Katy Street, some of whom saw the light turn red and shot over so that they get in front of you and cut in front, now fills the intersection from both sides. Now the light turns green, and you can't go. That is not helpful. So there's going to have to be some concessions and traffic control. And I had this discussion with a drawing that I came up with for DOT, and they're going to work their DOT magic. So just know that this is an important topic for this city, and we need it to happen sooner rather than later. So, yes?
Does the school selling that lot next to Kim's factor into that at all, with potentially bringing another business there eventually?
I would, yes. My unofficial, I don't work for the school or DOT opinion is, of course, because there's going to need to be a road. That road that is Church Street is probably going to be extended, right? And right.
Just denied the packets just now.
Oh, they just denied. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a long process. There, yeah, because the school board meeting's going on right now down the street.
So none of them have been done.
Yeah. So. And there's that whole stretch across from the school, right? I have no idea what that'll be. Whatever it becomes is probably going to have a light eventually, right? So we're watching that very closely. So there's that, right? From a light standpoint, communication standpoint. Just know that we're doing all we can for the city as a whole. I've said it before, just again, this is just me personally. We've got that reminds me of something I should have done at the front, but I'll do it here in a minute. me personally, the mayor's responsibility is to the citizens of the city, but also to the city itself, right? To protect the city. That's what the city council's responsibility is as well. So the decisions that are made by the council or that are, brought up or, enforced or enacted by the mayor or whatever are for the city as a whole. We want our citizens to, be protected and have the services that they need. At the same time, we have a responsibility to the city. I meant to pause at the beginning, and I apologize, we got going with 3 months ago, in September, at the beginning of that meeting, when I talked about, don't believe what you hear, only half of what you see, it's a little tongue-in-cheek. When I come forth to these town hall meetings, I'm topic specific. Very, very seldom do I talk about or mean to talk about the city as a whole. Like what I just said was a generality of the city, but mostly what I've been talking about in the town hall meetings have been road resurfacing, bringing businesses, and my brain is wrapped around those topics. In the last meeting 3 months ago, my approach in my mind was around those two topics. And I said that when you want to know something, don't listen to the folks in the city office or in the city barn or the police department, come to me. And I didn't mean that for every topic. And I hurt some feelings, and I want to apologize to anyone that I offended. By no means did I mean to convey that the people that work for this city don't know what they're doing. That is not the case. This city doesn't move forward without the expertise inside that office, on that public works staff, or in this police department. When it comes to road resurfacing and businesses and the vision around what we're trying to accomplish as a city, okay, fine, talk to me. But if you ask me how the water bills work, I'm gonna send you to the expert. If you ask me how the ticket system and how to pay my ticket and how the court system works, I'm gonna send you to the expert. We have experts all over that office, and they're interchanging with each other's jobs. They're amazing people. And at no time did I mean, don't ask them anything. Don't ask the police department anything. Of course not. That was never my intent, and I just want to apologize to anyone that came across to. I should have been more specific around the topics in hand. So I wanted to pause and make sure that I got that out there in this meeting, that when it comes to certain things, there are folks that know more than others. And I want us all to be careful that what's put on the bulletin board of Facebook is not always accurate. So that's all I'm trying to say. But yeah, we've got a capable crew in the city, and they do a phenomenal job every day. And without them, this stuff comes to a halt. So, kudos to them, and certainly no insult intended ever. So, we good? All right. Well, any other general questions? Okay.
So several months back, the stop sign at Kim's was hit coming out of the parking lot.
Yes. Because there were two.
Yes. I don't know what happened to the other one. One got hit, I don't know where the other one went.
They both got hit, and they both got knocked down.
Yes.
And the one next to 69 was replaced immediately.
Okay, because people don't seem to realize there's they think that's part of the approach to the parking lot.
The first stop sign at Church Street before you get to 69 has not been replaced yet. And so I will put that on a list to follow up with DOT. Or actually, I think inside the city limits, it's us.
Yeah.
And we're actually missing a couple of stop signs in town, and I have a list that I'm working on with Corey. But that one is definitely important. The good news is there is still a stop sign on Church Street coming up to that, coming on Church Street, coming toward that intersection from Kim's. If you're in the Kim's parking lot and you come across, traffic coming this way has a stop sign. But that doesn't mean they may not see the stop sign, and that could create a problem, and probably has. So, yeah, having a stop sign coming out of the parking lot to Church Street and then to 69 is what we started with. We need to get back to that. So I'm going to put that there. Cool. Does anyone have I mean, we're all in here right now. Does anyone have some suggestions or businesses that you would like to see come to town? That have, I mean, urgent care and pharmacy, you know, and Sonic. Okay, yeah, all the fast food names are going to, top these lists. And again, as we speak tonight, the equation for those types of businesses isn't there. But man, it's coming. Like it's going to come on like a light switch, and they're all going to be talking to the EDC quickly, right? So that's kind of what we're trying to do as a city, is to be ready for that. We have to be ready for that quick, because we've seen instances where cities in the region have not been ready, and it's rough. It's rough when that growth runs over you. So.
No Riley's and AutoZone would be nice.
Riley's, yep. Old Riley's and AutoZone have been in discussions with EDC, or the EDC reaching out to them. Correct me if I'm wrong. There's an AutoZone and 2 O'Reilly's in Greenville that I can think
Two
of.
AutoZones and two O'Reillys.
Two and two, and then in Emory there's is it an O'Reilly's?
O'Reilly's, but there's 2 other.
It's O'Reilly's, J&R, and
Independently owned.
Yeah, two independents. So AutoZone has been here, and the developer that brought us Kim's, it's been a couple months since I've talked to him, but we positioned the property next to the shortstop as a potential place for an AutoZone.
I've heard a smaller version of a hardware store, like I don't even know if they exist, but like a mini Ace Hardware or something similar.
That was the reason he probably was looking for property for a hardware store. We've also recently reached out to American National Bank. A couple of folks on the EDC board do a lot of business with them, and we're on their radar, but not yet, like he's talking about. The equation's not green yet, but it will be soon.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need to drive our cars up and down 69 a few more times during the day?
Officially, I cannot condone 50 style drag cruising.
Yeah.
However, it will probably be very apparent when those traffic measurements are being taken. So keep your antenna up. Yes, ma'am.
So we have several buildings that are just not being used and are owned by other people. Is there any conversation to get them to either sell or to try to do something with their buildings? I know some of them are being or have been stubborn in the past. I don't know.
Every week.
Every
week. It's part of it. It's everything that they do. I've also been very active in trying to figure out what can be done to free up those places, because even if they have to be renovated, the sooner we start, the better.
It's not just the main.
Oh, I know.
It's not,
there's plenty of buildings, and I know that conversations happen pretty frequently with a couple of buildings that I would call turnkey. Right? There are buildings in our city that, in the right hands, in a couple of weeks, could open their doors and be open for business doing something. But stopping short of being a part of those conversations directly as an investor, there's not a whole lot I can do, or that the EDC can do. The building has to change hands. The conversation comes to EDC to then talk about what we can do as a city to help that business get in there and get going. Right? It's tough. It's tough. We are interested in clearing land. We're interested in cleaning up the lots and making sure that, if there is a lot, it's attractive, right? Nothing's worse than having somebody that's looking to invest just drive right through our town because, no, okay, right? So, yes, those efforts are very frequent, and those conversations are repetitive. We're doing all we can. So.
Ashley is asking, can we get the street sign on Wallace Street back up?
Yes, the Wallace Street sign is on the list that I compiled. It was hit and twisted, and we actually have that sign in the shop, but it's not repairable, so we have to get that replaced. Yes, that is on the list right now, as well as the other stop signs.
Can we get the one on Windsor Street? It's Windsor and Elm.
Mm-hmm.
Cliff Jones, one of his workers, hit it with a dump trailer and crunched the whole side of the stop sign and the one that we actually put underneath it that says slow down, children play or something like that.
Right, yep, it's on the list.
Is it? Okay.
There are several stop signs in town that lean. You may have seen a certain bearded gentleman in a white truck hopping out and trying to lean up and jam a brick in there to make it straight. We're missing a stop sign at Windsor and 513. I think it's either that or Middle. I've got to go back to the list, but yeah, these are all things that we definitely got on our radar. And
I've got some bricks if you need them.
bricks, yes. There's some sitting out here on the Esplanade at the light. Yes, sir.
You know, this is a different approach, but you know, one resource that the city has that really is never highlighted is that we have an excellent internet connection through CombiTel. And, yeah, it's probably maybe a little bit of a stretch, but I can see where you have a small business park here that's relying on internet connectivity. And of course, from the business itself, you primarily get property taxes, that'd be valued business property. But with people working here, they'd be eating locally and everything else. But, and again, it'd be an additional draw for future additional businesses. It's just a thought.
No, and they've run fiber. They've run fiber to the main stretch. And
Health center.
interesting you said business park. That's a very interesting concept that might be coming soon, but we'll see. But that is definitely a plus.
The downside of Cumby is they have a business rate for their services that, you know, that's why we brought CIP in. Because theirs is a one fee for everybody, whether you're a business or not. It's not as good,
Right.
but it is an option. So that's why we did that.
You get what you pay for.
You get what you pay for.
Now, that fiber connection that right here on this main stretch of businesses is very strong. That's a plus, right? Something we should probably push to the forefront in terms of marketing.
When we get our new website.
When you get our new website, correct.
If I could make a couple comments.
Sure.
If y'all look at the budget, I think it's posted. You'll see the general fund income revenue. There's about 4 things on there. There's property tax, there's sales tax, there's traffic fines, and then there's fees and permits. We're kind of, there's rules about how many traffic tickets they can write, how much money we can generate. It's a small percentage of the total budget. Fees and permits and stuff is also going to be a
Tiny.
small number.
Tiny.
The 2 bigger components are sales tax and property tax. I get tickled when I hear all the folks in Austin talking about getting rid of property tax, because right now that would cut us in half.
Yep.
Our sales tax and property tax, our sales tax for this fiscal year, we budgeted, I believe it's $210,000. Our property tax is about $225,000. So if they take away our property tax, that's really gonna not be a good thing.
Well, I'll be honest, let's talk about it the way it is. If they take property tax away, services in this city will be cut. They'll have to, you know, and I don't want that. None of us want that.
Yeah.
And that's another reason why it's so important to put our best face forward to investors right now and fill some of these slots for businesses.
And you can go and check on the comptroller's website. There, you can run the reports. It's not, you know, public information. But the last time I looked, which was about 2 or 3 months ago, Lone Oak's sales tax has increased year on year about 10 or 12%. We're up about 30% over what we were about 6 years ago.
How
So
many businesses are in Lone Oak that are paying the sales tax to go to that?
that's what I was looking for, and I couldn't find it.
Well, honestly, it's probably a drive-through and spreadsheet. If you'll indulge me for a second, we've got Buffalo Stop and Kim's and Dos Ovejas to the south. We have Buffalo Nutrition, the Laundromat, Anchor Plumbing, Tejas Plumbing, right there. Then you got Stampede Pizza. The donut shop, thank you. The donut shop, that's 9.
No,
Hold on, not there yet.
Stampede, they're not
I
Stampede.
mentioned Stampede, and then we have Charlie's, and we have
Sacred Grounds.
Sacred Grounds does not pay taxes.
Yeah, they did.
Or do they?
Yes,
Okay, so that's 11. Cool, very cool, very cool.
Lopana.
Lapana is
I paid
12.
to him.
Is 12, is 12, and then, so then we hop across there's the metal shop, right? We hop across the street where we have the car wash and sand and gravel, right? Then we go Family Dollar Tree.
And then.
We have Fastball Academy.
Got the hot dog lady coming.
She's not there yet. The
What?
vape shop.
It's been closed. I'm not counting that. They're closed right now until, I think they're opening a spot in Terrell.
Yes.
So where are we at? We're at Fastball Academy. We got Shortstop, and then we got Dollar General, and then we have the Paint and Body Shop.
So 20.
So roughly 20. I mean, and there's, yeah.
Just so you know,
Wayne's lawnmower.
Wayne's Lawnmowers 21. Thank you. Went right past that.
just so you know, the comptroller will not give you a breakdown by
No.
business on how much, because that would be,
No, that's intrusive.
Yeah.
We also, I mean, let's be real. We have a couple of businesses running out of homes in this town that are not official, and hey, we're good. I mean,
They still pay sales tax.
do they still pay? Okay, well, that's cool.
well, that's it, that's if they're selling goods.
Right.
Service,
They're
Well,
collecting
but
it.
they pay sales tax. The cake lady over here off of Gladys Street, she pays sales tax when she goes to Dollar General, but she doesn't pay sales tax.
Well, and I don't know. I'm as you can tell, I'm not an expert on everything, and I definitely don't want to get into somebody's profit and loss books. But there are 20, let's say between 20 and 25 businesses, let's call it, right now. If we could add even a 6 out of the 6 to 10 slots that we have, we push that to 31, and depending on the business, the spike in percentage, to Wes's point, year over year, as we get into the fall and late part of next year, 25, could be significant. But we have to, we have to be a reason. Lono needs to be a compelling reason to come here. There has to be a compelling reason for somebody to say, I choose Lono. And that's what we're striving for.
when it comes to the business tax going away, one thing to keep in mind is across the board, everywhere, that would be an incentive for more businesses to grow and invest. Because that's money they don't spend on property tax, they can spend on investment. So if we're ready for them,
Exactly.
we can grow.
And if we're attractive, right? Having been through this myself, my family and I, in all transparency, it's going to take somebody who's willing to probably overpay. And that's real. It's going to take somebody that is willing to see the potential of this town, not the current status.
It's the same thing. Home prices are high too. So.
Exactly, right? And so that's a hard pill to swallow because money is not growing on trees. Never has, right? It's hard. And again, we keep coming back to this same point, which is if Lono is attractive enough stuff for someone to go, hey, what about Lono? And then they do the research and they look at what's coming development-wise and they see the potential, then they may not have a problem with a 3 or 4 year return on investment versus a 1 to 2. And that's what it takes. That's what it takes. It takes somebody who cares enough about being here to overpay and invest in the city as a whole, understanding that the long term of it is better for everybody. I'll stop there. What other questions? We good? Anything?
Nope.
All right. Well, then I won't keep you. I think I just heard thunder, so in the interest of getting everybody home safe, I'll stay here and answer any questions. I've got graphs, I've got updates and numbers, I've got a phone reminder. I'll call you back. We have an office. Come see me. I'm less than a half mile from your driveway. And we love Lono. Thanks, everybody, for showing up.
Don't ask me, I don't know.
It's okay.
Had basketball games.